This is Alice, and together we make Reiki Awakening Academy. And Victor needs no introduction, but he's our famous guest for tonight. And where you go with him, Alice?
Okay, so that was short and sweet, Connie. So yes, Connie and I are the people behind Reiki Awakening Academy, making it happen, bringing you fantastic classes, programs, books, and products and calendars and all kinds of fun, awesome, amazing things for your intuitive growth, development, and to get you where you want to go. And online and locally in Ohio and the Washington, D.C. area. So,
and the rest of the world.
And the rest of the world, because online we are all one. So, very excited, if you're new, to thank you for coming and hope to see you in further classes with Connie, me, or some of our other amazing teachers at Reiki Awakening Academy. And I am especially excited, honored, and just thrilled to welcome one of my very favorite and coolest people I know, Victor Paruta, who is, as you know, because you came to this because you just also wanted to be here with Victor's shining light. Victor is just a fantastic psychic with some of the most genuine heart of anyone I've ever met in this business, for sure. He is acclaimed, recognized, famous, basically, especially in Cincinnati, but also beyond. Last year, Victor graced us with his presence, and we just had a fantastic interview. It was I thought about it all year, how much I loved it. I mean, we had a blast. And so I was just so excited that he would come back and speak with us again tonight, especially because it's so close to the Expo Psychic Fair Festival of huge proportions called Victory of Light, which Victor runs and has founded and started, and it's just grown to incredible proportions. And I myself have been a lucky vendor at the Victory of Light 8 times. And Connie has also been there many times. And I don't know how many times, Connie. I know it's a lot.
Yeah, about 16.
Yeah, okay, wow.
Well, we haven't seen you for a while, Connie, so you need to come back sometime.
I groomed Alice. She was my protege.
It's true.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you created this, really?
She started coming to see me, and she wouldn't quit. She kept coming and coming. And I said, Victor's the place you got to go. If you want to make it.
You turned Alice onto Reiki?
No, I
turned her on to the metaphysics.
I was already Reiki. And I came to Connie to learn Chia's healing. And Connie said, look, this is a pendulum. And I'm like, ooh. And she goes, look at these crystals. And I'm like, wow. And so she taught me about all that stuff and just expanded my mind and got me going on a path that was much bigger than I ever expected. And so I just ran with it, and Connie's been my mentor and guide. I also introduced Connie to practical Reiki, Kundalini Reiki, and some of the angel attunements that I work with, and we became partners in bringing our knowledge and experience and passion and excitement about this work to the internet public, and to make a business of this and help people to grow in their own abilities. And so, as well as being fantastic friends, we are also business partners, and it's just awesome. It's been just a fantastic ride so far. But yes, Connie was the person who told me to come to Victory of Light, and I loved it. I love it so much.
That's a great story.
I tell all my students, Victory of Light. If you're going to succeed, that's in business, that's where you start. And you keep going there, so.
Best expo. Best. The most people coming through. You just are busy all the time. I've made so many contacts, and there have been people who have contacted me a year after they met me there and have raved about the Reiki healing they had with me or the reading I did for them, and have signed up for a class a year later because they were just, that was the time for them, but they never forgot. And I credit Victory of Light for a lot. And I'm so grateful. So Anyways, so that's our story. Thanks for filling out this poll. It's interesting to see what people are interested in here. I made a little poll here, and I see that we have. I said, if you got a reading tonight, if you get lucky enough to have a reading with Victor, what is your interest? And I see that 6 people have chosen. Oh, it's still moving now. People are like, wait a minute, I didn't vote. Okay, it's cool. Oh, the highest number has gone to Life Path. And then we have money and romance kind of tied, and then other, I don't know, and career. All right, that's really neat. Oh no, I don't know. Oh, we don't have to see who did that. Oops, sorry, and poll. Okay, let me hide this thing. Okay, that was fun. Go away now. All right, so now let's get official. Now that we've done a bit of an introduction, we get to meet Victor. Yay! So Victor, so you're psychic. How cool! Tell us, what's it like? What's it like to be psychic? To be you? And how would you say it's different from other people's experience?
Well, I'll tell you what. For me. Learning about metaphysics and the psychic realm really helped kind of move me out of the misery of being extremely sensitive and not knowing what to do about it, and not knowing how to manage my energy. Because when I was much younger, when I was in high school and college, I would be in crowds and I would just kind of be bombarded with energy from people's emotions and thoughts. And I would end up getting lost in all that noise. And when I started realizing that, yeah, it's because I'm empathic and psychic and sensitive, I started developing the skills that I think every sensitive person should develop in order to make the sensitivity work for them instead of against them. And I've met a lot of people who are probably, out of control channels, out of control psychics. They might not realize that that's what they're doing, but you can watch them, the way they respond to the people around them. It's as if there's something that, gets moved towards somebody else's energy field, and then somebody towards somebody else's. And you've got to learn certain basic essential psychic skills, such as grounding and centering. And breathing is one of the great ways to do that, because breathing is really something we take for granted. We breathe who knows how many times a day, but it's through breathing consciously and with awareness that we can really calm our energies and start to get grounded and centered. And then deeper breathing, yogic breathing, can lead to the stimulation and opening of the chakras, especially the third eye chakra, from which our ability to see into the nature of things comes from the third eye, and the heart chakra, so that we could be vulnerable. I know it's tough being a man, it's tough being a woman, but of course for a man in this society, it's tough to be a vulnerable and sensitive person, because men are supposed to be armored and tough, and they're never supposed to show their feelings. But it's only by being genuine and embracing those parts of yourselves that have caused you so much pain in your life, and just accepting them and embracing them and working with them in a conscious way. And the spiritual path is really what you end up being on, whether you know it or not. I mean, we're all on a spiritual path. I mean, you may not know that you're on a spiritual path, but your life is the outpicturing of your beliefs. And some people think that they don't have any spiritual or religious beliefs, but everybody has beliefs. You can't not have beliefs, because human beings have a really tough time existing in a world without meaning. We create meaning. We need to create meaning. Of course, sometimes the meaning that we create is erroneous, and it has to be rethought or reevaluated at some point in time, especially some of the conclusions we make about life and about ourselves and about other people from a very early age based on your family of origin and early life experiences, and even attitudes and emotions that you come into this life from your previous lifetimes, so that's your karma and your destiny. And I think once you embrace it, and it's interesting that so many people, the majority of people, wanted to learn about their life path. I always teach that the life that you are living right now, that is your destiny, that is your life path. You've got to embrace it and do what you've got on your plate well, whether you like it or not. Most people kind of complain and bitch about it throughout their entire lives, or they waste so much time blaming their parents for the life that they've got. But your parents didn't really have all that much to do with that. I mean, if it wasn't your karma, you wouldn't have been born into that family or into those circumstances. And I always love those success stories where people rise above humble beginnings or challenging circumstances. And if you're doing it right, you're showing other people that follow you how to do it. And I think that that's one of the great things about the Victory of Light Expo is for almost free, almost no money at all, you could learn about meditation, essential psychic skills, spiritual alternatives to religious beliefs or systems that you may not really be able to relate to very well. And our parents and the people that we grow up with, they do their very best, but we're under the illusion that just because they're adults when we're children, that they know what they're doing. And they don't necessarily know what they're talking about. They teach us what they know, but what they know might be quite dysfunctional in many ways. And energetically, so much is communicated, whether or not it's ever spoken. We learn by the example that's set before us. Not any words that are spoken, but by the actions, by the feelings, by the energies that we're absorbing from the people around us. And those of you that have enlightened parents are indeed extremely fortunate, because you could have been born into much more difficult circumstances.
And many of my students are coming from circumstances where this is all new and their family doesn't relate, or their spouse doesn't relate, or their extended family and their friends don't relate to some new piece of their spiritual path that they've discovered. And I have a class to help people deal with that, and it's actually called Who Are You and Why Have You Become So Strange? And it's really...
I remember that.
Remember
yeah, you that at Victory of Light, yeah.
Yeah, and it was, people really appreciated it because it's all really about perspectives and paradigm shifting, and it's stuff that we have to face, most of us anyways, if we aren't living in a very accepting, world, or even just small group, our family circle, our friend circle. And for me, I know what that's like in some ways, not as extreme as some people have faced that I work with, but just myself, my husband was like, what is this crazy thing you're doing now? My parents were like, shut up already, we're sick of hearing about this Reiki that you just are obsessing about. And I was like, all I wanted to do was learn more, talk about Reiki, just try stuff. I was just in this phase where I needed to be doing that. Thanks. Okay, not a padded room. Thank you, Connie. But no, I needed to be doing and talking about Reiki because it was part of my path to be blasting into this world. And if they weren't going to come with me, I was just going to go anyways, and they were just going to have to figure it out, So happily for me, everyone kind of adjusted, got used to it, and my husband too. I attuned him when he finally started seeing me succeed at doing this and realized there's something to it. But that's a paradigm shift that he made and my parents made in order to accept me, and of course my children are very comfortable with it, and so yay for them, and so they're the ones who are going to grow up with enlightened parents, and hopefully that will make a difference to their lives. I definitely see it in the conversations I have with my middle school daughter and my high school daughter, but especially the middle schooler, because man, what a struggle that middle school time is. emotionally, and ugh, what a mess.
Yeah,
So,
an enlightened parent allows their child to unfold from within rather than to be indoctrinated into, specifically your system of beliefs. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, definitely. And that's what I want for them. I want them to trust themselves and explore, because that is the best way to learn. But I feel that they're much more empowered to deal with the things that life gives them, to deal with pains and stresses, than just to tough it out or to suffer through it or something like that. When now they have some tools that they can use, or when their life is going in a way that they're not happy with, there's things that they can employ. There's tools and skills that I use, that they see me use, I talk about with them, that they can then pick up and try. So okay, you mentioned breathing. Definitely breathing to help you center and ground and open the third eye chakra. What do you think is the most helpful technique if someone wants to develop their psychic gifts?
Well, I think you've got to start understanding and learning the language of spirit. It isn't necessarily a verbal language, even though people who are clairaudient get words and phrases that pop into their minds. It's basically being psychic is all of the 5 physical senses and then some moving into invisible and psychic realms. So when you're experiencing clairvoyance, you're not just seeing with your eyes, you're seeing with your mind. When the third eye is open, you can see things that aren't in the physical plane, even with your physical eyes, but you're seeing usually on the inner screen of the mind, and that might be where you're hearing or feeling or knowing. And I think it's really important to understand a little bit of psychology, because the mind can deceive us very easily and it can enlighten us. It just kind of depends, So there are all kinds of things that people do to not see the truth. For example, a lot of times you can't bear the truth. It's too close to home. You're not ready to hear it. And if you do hear it, you can often become quite defensive if you aren't ready for that degree of self-awareness. It can be a very humbling process as well as a very empowering process. But Spirit is always communicating with us through your dream life. Those aren't just random dreams that are meaningless. Every dream has a richness of meaning. And so if you learn the language of feelings and symbols and can translate your dreams, for example, into messages that have meaning, that can be extremely helpful. And also what a lot of people don't realize is the physical body is like a psychic antenna. We all have that sinking feeling in our chests or in our stomach, or something that makes us feel very happy. I mean, a lot of times when you meet somebody for the very first time, you'll have this, very physical response to that person. You might really like them. You might just be repulsed and just don't want to be around them. And a lot of times that's because of a past life connection that you've got with that person, or they may represent something about yourself that you aren't ready to see or accept. Through the psychological process of projection, we could learn so much about ourselves by observing what we notice about the people in our environment, especially if we are critical of certain people. And you'll find that the people that you're critical of, maybe, everybody knows this except you, until the light bulb comes on for you. But we tend to be the most critical of people who are holding or carrying a quality that we ourselves have, that we have disowned, that we simply cannot accept in ourselves. And so we project it onto other people, and that's where we see it. For example, you've got to observe yourself. If you're always saying certain things about people, like, oh, that person's really selfish, or that person's really lazy, or that person's a loudmouth, chances are, if you turn that mirror around to face yourself, you are that person that you're talking about. It's just that you can't see it about yourself. And again, that's how enlightenment can be very humbling. I think the ego, we've all heard about the ego. We need an ego in order to survive because it gives us our sense of self. But the ego needs to serve us rather than run the show. And I think when we learn to pay attention to a certain type of feeling or emotion or message that we're getting, sometimes it's very quiet. It nudges. It doesn't bowl you over or knock you over the head, but in a subtle way usually. Sometimes it'll knock you over the head, but usually it's a lot more subtle. And if you learn to pay attention to that quiet voice, it will really be guiding you in a way that is correct for you, and not necessarily the way other people are advising you to go, even people that you might respect. You've got to be true to yourself. Your intuition isn't always right, but it's almost always right.
Wow, that's really great advice. So much. Wow, so much. That, just to learn to sense, to observe. I spend a lot of time teaching my students how to just observe their clairs, their intuitive senses, and what is coming in, and just to observe without judging or trying to analyze it first, but just to record what they're getting, and then later connect the dots when they get enough experience, because it really is like learning a language. And you learn a language by repetition, just like a baby does, by repetition and experience. And so I think that all of that is really valuable, and I totally get what you're saying and appreciate it very much.
Yeah, the higher self is, when you first tune into it, sometimes it's a little, almost scary, in the sense that it feels like another person. It sometimes doesn't feel like you at all, but it's a larger version of yourself. It's a more ennobled, empowered, a wiser version of yourself that may not necessarily resemble your earth personality or ego very much at all. So when that voice or presence comes through, it's always loving, it's always comforting. If it isn't, you're tuned into something else. Psychology is very fascinating, and I've always been interested in that. It behooves everybody to understand themselves, how the mind works, ways in which we deceive ourselves, ways in which we can become more aware and more accurate. And practicing a divination system of some sort, or a healing system of some sort, will almost always greatly increase your intuition, because you're learning little tools, you're learning little bits of information that are very valuable. Like if you learn astrology, it isn't just the daily horoscope in the newspaper that you read every day. Astrology is a very profound and rich science that embodies the progress of a soul through a lifetime, as well as so many psychological characteristics, our emotions, our basic character, ways in which we deceive ourselves, ways in which we are either too rigid or not rigid enough. All of those qualities are reflected by the archetypal symbols of all the planets, which have counterparts in the Roman and Greek gods. Saturn, for example, is Chronos. So Saturn represents time. Jupiter is Zeus, the father god. And of course, we know what Venus represents, the goddess of love. And love, Venus has so many different sides to herself. She isn't just love and light. She can be very angry. She can be vengeful. She can have a dark side. And then, of course, there's Mars, which is the active principle, a very masculine planet that everybody has in their chart. And the way it's aspected and the sign that it's in and the house that it's in will reveal your ability or lack of ability to take action in a certain way and how effective you'll be with your actions in getting what you want. We have to have a strong Mars or a strong Venus or Mercury, the way we think, our basic thinking patterns, the way that is aspected. I think astrology is probably the earliest form of psychology. I think a lot of modern psychology comes from the study of astrology. And of course, very similar archetypes are reflected in the tarot. People who do tarot readings can also learn a lot about themselves and about life through reading the tarot. And of course, when I started learning divination systems, I wore out the book. You got to learn the book. But then that's got to be a jumping off point for your intuition, your inner vision, to read into the cards or read into the chart. And that's when you become skillful and excellent in the practice of your craft or profession, if you're an astrologer or a tarot reader or a psychic reader. And I really believe in the value of peak experiences, transpersonal peak aha moments, those experiences we have that change you forever. For example, past life regressions are extremely powerful. When you learn about past lives, and every time I've had a past life regression, and because I'm very visual by nature, I tend to see things very crisply in my mind. And during a regression, you're feeling what you felt in previous lifetimes, and you're understanding yourself so much better than you ever have before. And after every regression, my entire concept of the meaning of life and the nature of the universe and our place in it has really changed. So I really encourage people to try these things out, because it's too easy for the mind to become a box or a cage, which I believe you may have mentioned, or somebody mentioned that earlier today. We don't want the mind to be a cage within which we are trapped. Open that door. There are different ways of sensing the world. There are different ways of experiencing life. There's a way to get out of the cage, out of the trap of logical linear thinking, into more of a realization or wisdom or knowledge, those aha moments in which you've transcended yourself. And that's when you really start to see your connection with everyone and everything, because it's there. It's there even when it's not here. It's there. You're just not seeing it. It's always there. And it's so important for people when they're going through a hard time to not take desperate measures, because if you wait it out, it will pass, because everything changes. Nothing ever stays the same, and that's the nature of our lives. That's one of the frustrating things about our lives. It's also one of the very hopeful things about our lives. Human psychology is such that we tend to think that the good times will last forever, or if we're going through bad times, that those times will last forever. Hang in there, or plan accordingly, because they don't last forever, whether you're in the good times or the bad times. Things go in waves and in cycles. And so everything always changes, and it forces us to change and grow. We've got to keep up with the times. We've got to keep up with our lives. We've got to keep up with the changing dynamics of your relationships as your kids grow up. As we get older, our priorities change. And in older years, the things that you value the most are probably the things that you didn't value very much when you were a lot younger. For example, your family, your relationships, your relationship to yourself. I think that if there really is a panacea or that magic bullet that really solves almost all your problems, it's going to be within the realm of self-acceptance. You're not going to be like that guy over there that everybody seems to think you should be like. That's not going to work. You'll never be happy pretending. You've got to be true to yourself and allow your unique set of gifts that you came into this world to share to start shining through, instead of being trapped in a treadmill in which those gifts do not have a means of expressing themselves. You know, we're creative beings. We need to express ourselves. We're not meant to live by a set of rules. You know, rules can guide us, but there's always a time when you transcend a certain set of rules and you move to a higher set of rules. And people who are truly enlightened aren't really bound by a lot of rules. You know, they can manifest things. They can do superhuman things. But we're all capable of that. It's amazing the potential that each of us has.
That
It's
is so
almost
true.
amazing. It really is.
It is amazing. I agree with you completely.
And you know
So,
what, though? Even the
yeah.
New Age or spiritual stuff can be a trap. You know? You've got to have some perspective, especially if you start moving into judgment. Like,
Oh
oh,
my
I'm
God,
enlightened
yes.
now and I'm better than that guy. You know, that's
Or
not
this method is right
enlightenment.
and those are wrong.
Those are all
Yeah,
wrong.
I get that a
Exactly.
lot. Oh, it's
Yep.
such a struggle.
Or
Yeah.
I've got all the answers. You know, as soon as you hear somebody say that, you know they don't. And you know they're in the ego. You got to have a little humility,
Right.
because, you know, and give deference to something bigger than yourself, you know, your higher self or your spirit, which guides you. I mean, it brought you here into this lifetime, and it'll take you out when it's your time to go. You don't have any control over that at all. All you have control over is the choices you make while you're here, and living through the heart and trying to do a little good while you're here.
Right. Hey, I had so many things that I had set up to ask you, but I know that you do some paranormal work too, and we didn't really talk about that very much last year. Can you give us a little bit about some of your experiences doing that might be of interest?
Well, when you're hang your shingle out as a psychic, one day you're going to get that call about the haunted house or about some paranormal phenomenon that's going on in somebody's house, and they're calling you because they need help. And I'm a member of a paranormal team. Our team tends to be psychic medium or clairvoyant based. We aren't only using instruments because, as we all know, instruments are limited. You know, if an instrument isn't sensitive enough to register certain energies, it simply isn't going to pick it up. Even so, it's amazing how much a camera or a video recorder or an audio recorder can indeed pick up. And then we go back to paranormal psychology. As we evaluate evidence, we don't want our minds to play tricks on us, because humans are programmed faces in random patterns. And every face that you see, or every something that looks like a set of eyes and a mouth looking at you out of some, you know, distortion in a picture or a reflection in a window, isn't necessarily a ghost. But exploring the paranormal is really, really interesting. And you know, Alice, what's really interesting about it is so many of the things that I've seen as a paranormal investigator are so funny, because it's almost like Harry Potter. You know, like some of the characters in the Harry Potter movies, they actually exist in the spirit world. And when you're in nature and you start seeing nature spirits, some of them look just like the little fairies that used to be in the cartoons I watched when I was a little kid, you know, with wings, or, you know, these are actual beings that are surrounding us, but they're in another dimension. I've heard them referred to as semi-physical. And so they may not have a real physical body, they're semi-physical, so you can see through them. They're energy beings. And this planet of ours is full of energy beings. There are beings that live in the earth, there are beings that live in the sky, all over the place. Every environment you can think of, there's paranormal energies. And then, of course, there are places that have certain earth energies, so that when you're in a certain place, you feel very uplifted. For example, usually when you're up on a mountain or someplace where you're up high. And there's other places that are very draining, like where there's certain negative vortexes of energy that are there simply because of the topography of the land or the way prana or chi flows over a certain place. And people who live there could become drained. They're never well rested. They could be perpetually ill. Or sometimes you'll find people who are living in houses with a negative energy like that, that no matter how hard an investigator tries to clear those energies, they can't really be cleared. It's because the earth energies are just very low and very draining. And sensitive people have always been able to feel these things. But there's a reason for it. Yeah, that energy is that way. The thing about being psychic and being intuitive and learning how to work with your own abilities is the imagination. The imagination, certainly it does make things up out of nothingness through projection, but it also works with images. The imagination, there's a part of your imagination that receives images, information through imagery. And so the imagination, just like the mind, it can enlighten you or it can deceive you. You've got to be able to know the difference. As a paranormal investigator, when I walk into a space or a room, or as I'm preparing to drive off to an investigation, or if I've been preparing to do the investigation, I can start receiving images and getting information about that location days in advance, or during my drive there. And sometimes spirits will appear to me and I'll know exactly what's going on there before I ever even get there. And it's always an adventure. No haunted or paranormal location is ever the same as the last one. It's always a very unique mix. But one of the things that humans are capable of doing is they're capable of aligning themselves with higher powers, higher forces, the angels, animal spirits, other spirits. I've got a whole crew of people that help me with my paranormal work. Angels, Native Americans in the spirit world, Native Americans who are from North America or from South America, nature spirits, angels, all sorts of beings that work with me as I clear a place or I change the energy of a place. You were talking about crystals. I've used crystal grids to break up energy patterns at a location so that the web of negative energy can start breaking up. And the intention, your intention to do something, your intention to clear a location, that sets all the other energies in motion. And once you've developed these relationships with your guides or helpers or higher beings, and you may or may not consciously know who they are, but that intention to clear or to help creates a vortex, and they start coming in and they start moving into a space and they start protecting the space and creating a safe boundary so that invasive energies come upon a wall of energy and that they can't pass through. And it's so gratifying to see families that are now able to stay in their home, whereas they were ready to sell their home and leave town before calling a paranormal investigation team. And it's so important to be aware of animals and animal spirits. That's one of the things that Native Americans teach us. And all of these things have become part of, I guess, New Age teachings. We kind of draw from every tradition, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Native American, etc., etc., etc. Shamanism is really popular now, where we're learning the techniques that shaman or medicine men and women have used since the beginning of tribal societies eons ago to ally themselves with the spirit world to accomplish something, whether it's to make it rain or to heal somebody that's sick or to get rid of negative spirits. We're still doing that. There's still a need for that. And, some people that might be really scientifically inclined, sometimes psychics are a means of last resort. They've been to the doctor, they've been to the psychologist, they've been to the priest, they've been to mom and dad and everyone they could possibly think of, and nobody can help them. And then finally, as the desperate, their last shred of hope, they come to see a psychic or an energy healer.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they get what they're looking for. It comes through those mystical kind of woo-woo ways that aren't supposed to be real, but they really are real. It's amazing what we can do when we can ally ourselves with higher powers and higher forces. And it's really sad to see people who are lost in illusion, and it's so easy to get lost in illusion, but it's also easy to find yourself. All you have to do is learn how. And that's really what the Victory of Light Expo is all about. 77 seminars on psychic and spiritual unfolding, development. You can watch demonstrations of psychic abilities. We've got 7 or 8 mediums giving free messages during some of the talks. We've got a medical intuitive. We've got a lot of psychics doing readings for free so that you can see what it's like. And I think that's been, the purpose of my life to a great extent is to demystify the psychic and the mystical and the paranormal so that people aren't afraid of it and so that they realize that it's really a part of everyone's life. It really is. You could pretend it is, but it is. I think even some of the most cynical people out there have had a profoundly mystical experience. For example, an after-death communication by a loved one who's passed on. I think a lot of people, maybe 80% of people have had an experience like that. But then they try to tell somebody, and what are they told? They're told, oh, you just made that up, or you just imagined that. Well, what if you didn't make it up? What if you didn't imagine that? What if communication with loved ones on the other side is possible? What if it's an everyday occurrence? Wouldn't life be more enchanted? Wouldn't it be more worth living? Wouldn't it put everything in perspective so that we can step off the hamster wheel of working and making money to pay bills? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Life is
Totally.
rich, and the spiritual can open that enchantment to your sight. It's worth it to be opened and to explore.
I love the word enchanted. I love it. So may I invite you to do some readings. I know people have been pretty excited about this, and I made a list, and we'll see what we have time for tonight. There's our mini readings, but you're so good at them. And the first person who showed up tonight was Robin, and I said, oh, Robin, you're first, because such a dedication to come so early. So Robin, if you have a question, just an area, something you want some guidance, you can type it into the chat, and we'll see, Victor, if you're feeling connected, you can give her some insight. After Robin is Karen McHugh. Is Karen here? Good. Okay, so Karen and then Yvonne. So if you guys want to be on deck, we can make this efficient and make the most of our time. Okay, so whatever you get for Robin, she's ready for you.
Okay. Nothing in particular.
And it was like,
WHATE.
whatever. That's part of a whatever.
Okay, Robin. I just need to know your birth date. A Virgo, 9/18/53. So that makes you how old? You're 61, if I'm doing the math right. Okay. Now, when I do internet type of readings, there's a lot of people out there. I want to make sure that I'm tuning into you correctly. So, Robin, I'm going to share with you my initial impression about you, and I need some feedback to make sure that I'm tuning into you. Do you find that your mind is somewhat overwhelmed, and are you quite emotional or often overwhelmed by emotional energies and strong energies? You feel it in your body. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. You got a real depth, you've got a lot of emotion. You'll probably be responding from the heart in an emotional way to most things. I think that that's sometimes a tough way to be, although it can indeed work. One of the things that the way I'm wired is I tend not to have emotional reactions or responses to things until later, sometimes days later. And that frustrates people because, I suppose it's my way of making it through a critical time or a difficult time. I move into kind of cool, calm, collected, and dealing with a crisis, and then I'll fall apart 2 days later. But with somebody like you, you're going to be feeling it really right away. I almost feel like in some ways you need more variety and change in your life. A part of me's feeling that you might be a little introverted or a little bit too disconnected from what I would call a comfortable, supportive social group of people around you. Some people simply don't feel all that comfortable when they're out of the house or when they are social. You know what I'm saying? They just feel uncomfortable out there. They feel more at home, more comfortable at home. But that becomes a little bit of a trap because when you're at home, you wish you were out there doing something. And when you're out there doing something, you get a little overly sensitive or the mind shuts down. You know what I mean? Instead of embracing and opening and moving toward new experiences, you might be kind of shying away from them or going back to your safety zone. You know what I'm saying? So I think that the way out of this trap for you is to observe. Remember, we were talking about self-observation. Observe what you think about other people that says this isn't safe, and start to listen so that you're not center stage, but you allow someone else to be center stage. And you give all of your attention to understanding them, understanding their story, understanding their experience. And basically what you're doing is you're letting them in. Exactly. Yeah, you're empathic, but sometimes empathic people shut that down because it hurts too much. We wall ourselves off. But I'm so glad you're here at the Reiki Academy, learning and opening up your mind. I also recommend that you attend musical performances, whether it's a symphony or a concert or something like that. For you, as for most people, but especially for you, music is medicine. So live music tends to be more healing than recorded music, even though recorded music is certainly excellent as well. But live music is really powerful. So if you've got a symphony or an orchestra or some vehicle for experiencing live music, I would definitely do it because you'll find that you're always feeling better. And it takes you out of that attitude I was trying to describe, and it opens up your heart and you start understanding people. I sense that once you're there, you're extremely loving. And I also feel that you're really good with kids, probably animals. You've got a real mothering instinct. And I feel that with kids or animals, that's where your empathy really shows. And you really have a talent for understanding them. And that helps them feel good because they've been understood. So I think that you've got a lot of love, you've got a lot of gifts to share. And I think you're pretty awesome.
Yvonne. No, Karen. I'm sorry. Karen McHugh is next, and then Yvonne, if we have time, and we'll try. Yes, thank you, Victor. Wow. Wow, Victor, you really are tuned in. How cool. Karen, don't forget that Victor needs your birth date and an area that you might want some advice. Thanks, Victor. I really appreciate you doing this. It's so cool. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're February 3rd,
Career and career in light work.
1957. That's a good year. That's my year. So you're an Aquarius, okay, and so that means you're 58. Okay, let's see, Karen McHugh. By the way, for those of you who want to practice your intuition, your name carries your vibration. So what I sometimes do is when somebody asks me for a reading and I have their name, whether it's first or first and last, and I just start repeating their name in my mind, and I start getting images and impressions because the name carries your vibration. Your birth date always does, as well. So that's one reason I like to have your name and your birth date. Okay, well, Karen, I think your energy is pretty ready to go. Now, your question was career and light work. You're ready to go, but I feel like there is some frustration, almost kind of like the opportunities you've had aren't quite enough as far as your expectations or requirements. And so you're feeling like it's not enough. You might be, for example, let's say you're trying to make money as a light worker or a healer and you're not making enough, or it just isn't big enough. It's time for you to expand it a little bit more, since your energy is so dynamic and you are an Aquarian, and Aquariuses tend to do really well with groups. I think that if you wanted to expand your light work or your career as a light worker, I would get out there and put yourself out there as a speaker, a teacher, a presenter, somebody that's giving a lecture every now and then. And I think that would connect you with a lot more people. I also want to say that within your mind, there's a tendency to judge things a little bit too quickly. So you might want to withhold passing judgment on someone or something a little bit longer until you really hear the full story or get a deeper sense of what they're really needing or what they're really trying to communicate. Really, being a light worker, being a psychic, being a healer requires talent and skill in listening and putting yourself and your needs on the back burner and letting your clients or whoever's in front of you asking for guidance, putting them in the center of the circle and putting all your focus and attention on them. But sometimes you can't just pick and choose, Karen. You can't just say, I'm only going to work on these people, this demographic, or this age group, or people with this set of issues. So you've got to, I suppose, work on everybody. Of course, it's your prerogative to refuse working with somebody that you're not comfortable with for some reason, but you might be missing out. You might discover something within that person that you didn't know was there, and you realize, oh, because the people that come to you have something to teach you as well. Have you noticed that, Alice and Connie? The people that you work on for healings, once in a while, or maybe all the time, they're teaching you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm learning all the time.
They're bringing a
every day.
theme into your life that's going to help you in your life as well. So, Karen, I understand your frustration. What you've got going for you is great charisma, an awesome dynamic energy, and I'd like to see you maybe get out a little bit more. And you've got to dial it up. You need bigger. You need more. You need not a small stage, a larger stage. You know what I'm saying?
Karen is my student, Victor. She's in my 9-month program, Lightworkers Intensive, one of 6 people in a small group learning with me for 9 months. And this is, we're working on just this, just getting those skills in place, trusting herself, and making it happen as a career. So this is a step-by-step program, but she's definitely on her way. And I think that's really great advice.
It goes back and forth, I think, with Karen, as with everybody, with all of us. You take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, but you're still making progress, right?
Definitely. She is. Huge, fast. I mean, fast. Like wanting to start and then full speed ahead kind of stuff in terms of her learning and development. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm very proud of Karen.
If things aren't moving fast enough for you. It's God's time is the right time.
Yes, so very. Okay. Well, maybe we have a little more time. Can you stay a little bit, Victor? Can you stay a little over 10?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's really nice. I appreciate it. I know there are people that would love to have a turn if you feel like you've got the energy to keep going for a bit. I know you have a big weekend ahead, and you might not know this, or I know you do. Know Connie and Victor know this, but my daughter's bat mitzvah is on Saturday, so I've got a lot going on at my house too these days, and all kinds of things. So it's a pretty exciting weekend for all of us, and that's the only reason I'm not coming to Victory of Light this weekend, because I have this big family thing. But
that's wonderful.
Anyways,
your daughter is so beautiful. I saw her picture on Facebook. You must be very proud.
Thank you. I am all for my kids. Just blow me away totally. So this is my number 2. Who's what, Connie?
Means I don't get to see you and Ernie either. Usually Ernie and Alice go to the expo, and they see me on the way down, and they stay with me on the way back, and it's really exciting to see them coming out of the expo all hyped.
Yeah, woo! Yeah, we have that, but now Connie and Ernie are coming here, so we get to play out here, and that will be fun. So actually, the next person on the list is Yvonne, because I know she showed up early. And then Daisy's on deck. I was just going by who I saw show up in the order that I could tell that you came. A lot of people jumped in at the same time, so I made a list, and I'm going to try to stick with that, and we'll see what we can do, guys. Yvonne, don't forget that Victor would like your birth date. I'm sure you guys all know what to do by now. And if you have something that you would like some guidance on, just ask. Thank you, Victor. Yay, I love your readings.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, that's a nice way that Yvonne spells her name. It isn't the traditional spelling.
Right.
Okay, 115.
What?
I just would like to know if I'm going to get weirder.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Every grandkid needs the weird grandma, or the weird uncle, or whatever. Thank God for us, for the weird people out there, because it keeps things fresh. Okay, let's tune into that. So 115 means you're a Capricorn, I believe. Okay, so Yvonne. A lot of energy. Yvonne, as I'm tuning into you, I just feel a lot of Energy. There's a lot of energy, there's a strength. You feel like somebody that's a doer. You're probably relatively busy, you're probably productive, you can get a lot done. I also want to say that you're very psychic. You might find psychic impressions coming your way when you're cooking or doing something in the kitchen. You might get a flash about something that's going on with one of the grandkids or somebody that you know. You might make the call and you'll see that what you're feeling or what you've received is very, very true. I think that one of the things that you are doing is trying to keep the kids and people close to you on the right path. It's almost like you don't want anybody to get too lost, you know. And so, like if you're watching a kid, you make sure they get back on the sidewalk instead of wandering off. And you're very good at kind of almost shepherding people in a really, really good way. I'm sensing a male energy around you that, to me, it feels ancestral. This could be a father figure, I suppose. He's revealing that there's really wonderful and good things coming up for you in the future. I think that you're going to be very pleased at um, how things open up and how you're moving into a happier life and fortunate sets of circumstances, what would be considered good luck, but it's really grace or karmic or energetic rewards for a job well done. You're, again, very psychic. You work with a really high level master guide that often inspires you to have little talks with the kids. And I think you do a really good job at listening up. One thing that the kids are really lucky about having you as a grandma is that you're very non-judgmental, and I think that they sense loving acceptance from you, and they also feel that comfortable with you. They feel that they're in your heart, and therefore they feel safe with you and happy. I'm seeing the cutest little kid. Oh my God, is this a little boy? He's got the cutest little laugh and the cutest little smile. And I just think he is just, he's got to be just sunshine in your life, or that rainbow of happiness that just lights up your world. So I think you've got a great life. You're really plugged in. You're tuned in. You're definitely fulfilling your destiny in a very successful way. You're doing a great job with your life. Congratulations. We all wonder whether we're doing a good job, and I think you're doing a fantastic job for you. Oh, Brooks, who introduced himself before he was born. So is Brooks a boy or a girl? Boy, that's what I thought. Okay, good. Yeah, so yeah, he's a happy boy. He sure is cute. How old is he now? 8 months. Yellow sunshine, 8 months. Well, my God, this kid and you are like best friends. It's wonderful. Good for you.
So nice. Wow. What a beautiful reading. I loved it.
You're welcome.
Daisy, if you would like a reading, would you type there you are, your birth date and a question for Victor? This is so awesome, Victor. Wow. So you guys remember, if you're in Ohio or anywhere near Ohio this weekend, you should definitely go to Victory of Light Expo. It's at the Sharonville Convention Center, which is near Cincinnati. And it's big, and it's great, and it's exactly, all
It's
that.
life changing.
So,
It's,
yeah,
it's
it's so
life
worth it. It really
It's
can
life
be.
changing. It really is.
It's
Yeah, and for information about the expo, go to victoryoflight.com. Victoryoflight.com. You'll get all the information about it, directions, who's there, the seminar schedule, everything you need to know. Okay, let me tune into Daisy now. Okay. I see you kind of, you're a Pisces, and it's interesting because I see you doing kind of the Pisces thing, symbolized by the fish swimming in opposite directions. So it feels like there's a conflict, but Spirit's talking to you. It might not be what you want to hear, or you might be thinking, no way, I can't do that. But I feel that if you follow the promptings of Spirit, I see you moving out of a rut and moving from the valley up to the ridge tops, to the mountaintops. And there's going to be such a feeling of freedom and such a feeling of lightness rather than heaviness and burdensomeness, if that's the right word, burdens. What I want to say is, Daisy, it's very important for you to realize that it really is a waste of time trying to solve people's problems when they're not willing to solve those problems themselves. You can help somebody and try and try and try, but you can't do it for them. They've got to cooperate. They're the ones that really have to take the reins of their lives and take charge. I think that you're dealing with someone or a situation that's depressing. That person might be depressed. And what you have to be very careful of is through their resistance to change, they end up pulling you down to their level instead of rising up to a higher level. In this instance, because that is a very negative dynamic, I would let that person go. I know that's hard to do, especially if it's somebody that you really care about, but you don't want to be pulled into the quicksand. That's not constructive for you or for them. Let go, move out of that rut, because you'll find that that person's been pulling you down. Let go, move up to the hillside, to the top of the hill, and be free. I also feel that once you do that, your energy will refocus on a wonderful relationship that you either have in your life now or will have very, very soon. And I see the two of you being hitched, tied at the hip. Now, you might already be with this person, but maybe that relationship hasn't been the center of your focus. But it's when two people are kind of tied at the hip, when you see one, you see the other. They do things together. They make a good, strong team. That's where your energy really needs to be focused, is on your relationship. And as I say that, what I'm seeing is a big smile coming from that person, and so I feel that that person would agree with me. So don't lose sight of your priorities, and don't let negative people pull you away from what's good in your life in your effort to help them, because there's something going on in that dynamic where unfortunately that person can't seem to be helped. Okay?
Victor. Galen, if you'd like to be next, I had you on my list to be next.
You're welcome, Daisy. Okay, Galen. And a birthday? Okay, another 1957. Galen, and let's see, so you're April 13th, so you're a Taurus. Galen, I feel such a nice energy from you. It feels very intelligent. It feels curious, observant, I think really quite positive. It feels like there's an appropriate level of cautiousness getting pulled into somebody else's situation, which I think's truly appropriate. You don't want to, you need to choose wisely, because if you get entangled with somebody, it can be burdensome. And there's an instinct that you have within yourself to not allow that to happen. I sense music and creativity within you. If you have not been musical in your life, or if you used to be and currently are not, I feel that that would be a good creative outlet for you. In a general sense, Galen, I feel that you're a very creative person who's very talented in many ways. I'm seeing and hearing you whistling. The way I'm going to interpret this is this has something to do with nature, possibly birds. You might want to put out a bird feeder or a bird house so that you can enjoy the birds. I'm also feeling as if birds sometimes represent spirits on the other side, and I think that that's going to be the case for you. And I'm sensing somebody up there in heaven kind of gathering people and taking them up. So you've probably had some losses or people who have passed on. The feeling is that they're in good hands. Now, there's also a feeling that some of them have already reincarnated. I'm seeing almost like a crib or a playpen with all these little babies in it. And the way I'm interpreting that is reincarnation of some of the people that have passed on. You know, Galen, I think patience is really an important theme for you in your life. There's that phrase, I think Confucius said it, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Sometimes things take a long time, but the destination is not as important as the journey. It's the journey that you tend to get the meat out of the experience. It's from the experience itself, not reaching the destination. And if you think of it that way and kind of slow down and be a little bit more patient, I think you'll see good things on a day-to-day basis. I think you're very well liked. I get a positive vibe toward you from the people around you. I'm also seeing a tee that golfers use, you know, the little tee that you put the golf ball on. I don't know if you can relate that to your own life. If you don't golf, this is probably a message from someone in the spirit world who did golf. This is a male person who seems to be tipping his hat in a certain way. This person looks, I'm seeing this person wearing kind of like a beret. I don't know if he's Irish. Is Galen an Irish name? It might be. I'm not sure. But this person has an Irish vibe, or he might be wearing plaid. And the clothing looks kind of like, almost like a stereotype vintage golfer's outfit. So, and you wrote down, I'd been thinking about golf clubs that are in my storage unit. Okay, I wonder who they used to belong to, or whether this is a message from somebody to get out there and go golfing. You're a very beautiful soul. I hope you know that. And I just sense healing energy within you and angelic energy within you. Your aura is very green, which is not only healing, but sometimes it also indicates money or prosperity. So I think that you're really in good shape overall energetically. And Galen, just remember that you're so loved. There's a woman in spirit. I think she's in spirit. If she isn't in spirit, she's still alive, but she feels maternal. This might be your mom, who is just so loving. It just feels so good. So I think you're overall in good shape. If you do feel hesitant about moving more deeply into a relationship, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and do that. sometimes, as I said earlier in your reading, there's a cautiousness about getting sucked in or pulled into somebody's world too much. You like to have that option of being able to step out if you need to or want to. But when we move into a relationship fully and deeply, that's when we find what we're looking for as far as a deeper level of connection with somebody through commitment. And I'm going to encourage you to move in that direction. And I think that you'll find that some of that cautiousness is not necessarily leading you in the right way. I think through commitment, you'll end up being a lot more comfortable than you may be without it. So I'm going to encourage you to move more deeply into that sort of a committed energy with someone else. Beautiful person. I see animals around you. You get along well with people. You're loyal. You can talk to anybody. You've got great energy, okay?
She does. I know, Galen. Thank you, Victor. If we have time, Tamikia would be next and has been very patient. Tamikia, are you ready? Would you like a reading tonight?
And I just need the birth date.
She's typing.
Okay. 12/5. So you're a Sag. 80. So that makes you 34. Okay, let's take a look. Tamikia. Well, you know what? I think this is going to be a constructive cycle of time that you're in your life. A lot of change, but I also feel that it's very productive. And I'm seeing you getting answers to mysteries that you've never quite understood in your life. It's possible you come from almost a relatively complex family dynamic. It's possible that somebody in your family has kept you from becoming closer to somebody else in the family. I see you kind of moving past that and beyond that and transcending that. I think that your energy is very dynamic. There's a lot of charisma, there's a lot of attractiveness, there's a lot of energy. I also want to say you're a very strong person. If you don't know that, it's true. I think you're stronger than most people I will read or come across. And I think that that's really good. Trust your feelings. I think your feelings really guide you really well. Your emotional responses to people or situations, if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel good, perhaps you shouldn't go in that direction. Definitely a free spirit, very attractive, very social, a lot of charisma. And for somebody like you, I think you got to live your life big or kind of expansive. And I'm also going to encourage you to travel, possibly relocate if you've been thinking about it. It just feels like there's a need to expand. I also see you reconnecting with somebody that possibly lives a distance from you, but this feels like somebody that really wants to connect with you, and it feels like it would be a real nice connection. Try not to impulsively or too quickly pass judgment, or decide how a person is or what a situation's like. Give it a little more time. Whoever this person is that I'm talking about that wants you to be more a part of their life, I feel like their heart is pure and good, but it feels like they're frustrated with you for some reason. Maybe you're not an easy catch, but give it a little chance and see how it goes. Okay?
Thank you, Victor. You really have given us a lot of your time and a lot of really, really powerful readings, and what a great way to demonstrate everything that you teach and the way that you live. I mean, you're so sincere, you're so heartfelt, you're so committed to this work, and you're so genuine. I absolutely love, love, love having you here with us. It's just such a great way to model for my students. And for those who have come to hear you who I didn't know before, it's a really wonderful way to model what you do, who you are, and who you can be if you dedicate yourself the way that you have. And so all of these things are the reason that I invited you. And thank you for just showing so beautifully so much to everybody here. We know you want to promote.
Thank you, Alice.
Oh,
This is so much fun.
well, it's really, really fun for us.
I hope you invite me back sometime, because
I will.
I just love these sessions with you. They're just delightful for me as well. So I want to thank you for inviting me, and I want to just remind everybody that everybody has access to a larger presence or a higher energy. It can come in and through you, each and every one of you, whether you know it or not, and it already does. So
I so agree. I so agree. This is what I'm really out to show people
don't think, Alice, everybody's a channeler.
Oh yeah,
We're
yeah,
all
so much.
energies.
And some people do it without realizing. Lots of people do. I wanted to invite everybody, since Mother's Day is coming up. It's the next holiday. I created some things that might make a nice gift, and I just wanted to say, because you're here tonight, I'm offering you a special deal. Those of you who are here, just because I thought, you know what, we can look a little bit forward and say, hey, there are some mothers that we know, or in our lives, or our own, or our friends, or our kids, depending on where you are in life, that might appreciate a really nice Mother's Day gift. I know this is like, here comes a commercial, but you know what, it's really a special offer because you're here. I created these things, I wrote them, and spent a lot of time putting them together because they make a really nice gift. So you can see right there on the slide what it is, a moment for me. It's all about 30-second ways to balance your mind, body, spirit, and emotions, and just have a more mindful presence in your life, thinking about your reflections and your goals and your dreams. But 30 seconds doesn't feel like too much of a commitment for the intensely busy person. So if you are interested in this special deal, all you need to go to amomentforme.com, and you can use the code M4MOM, and if you order all 3 of these, you'll save $10, and you'll that's a really good deal, because normally it's like I can't remember. I think like you get it for $25 instead of $35. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but so check it out, see if you want to get it. If you do, and then I'll send them to you and I'll sign them for you, and it's just a nice gift. It's something really different. And I'm done with this commercial. Now I have to promote Connie, though, because Connie just wrote a new book. Yes, Connie wrote a new book, everybody, and it's just out now, and is very exciting. Because Connie, tell us about your new book while I pull up the notes.
It's called Advanced Auras and Chakras, Keeping It Simple. So many energy workers don't know what they're working with. You can be more powerful if you know what you're working with. We've taken the chakras from the dots to make them funnels to little cilia bouncing around at the bottom of them. We go to show you how to find your aura and how there are disease markers in the aura. If you come to me with with running eyes, a sore nose, and a runny throat, I know you've got a cold. There are also in your aura, each disease presents with 3 markers, and if you can find the 3 markers, you can get rid the person of the disease. It's exciting, it's all new, it's cutting edge, and it's $5 a graft, and you can't live without it if you're an energy healer, if you want to be successful. That's all I have to say.
She knows what she's doing, guys. She's amazing. So, Advanced Auras and Chakras, you can find it in the Reiki Awakening Academy store at this link, which I'm going to copy and paste into the chat. Just because you're here tonight, and because you gave us your time, and because you took a chance on coming to meet Victor and spending your evening with us, we just want to give you something also besides the wonderful, experience of being here, of course, which is priceless. Those things that have prices, we want to help you spend less and get more. So just some things that we're offering you tonight because you're here. And thank you so much for coming. These offers will be good for a couple of weeks. And also those who, you'll all be sent, and those who didn't make it tonight will be sent the recording of tonight's wonderful interview. And they can also take advantage of this offer up until the 17th of April. If you want to. And I do really, really encourage all of you to go if you can, anytime you can, it's twice a year even, to go to the Victory of Light, or go online, victoryoflight.com, and click on Victory of Light Expo, or learn more about Victor there as well. Because
plan your fall vacation around him right now. Take your and mark that weekend. No, mark that weekend on your calendar and make it November at Victor's for sure.
Yeah, the weekend before Thanksgiving, every year, a weekend before Thanksgiving, and also
I'm gonna go again.
April, never Easter weekend, of course.
Right, and never Thanksgiving weekend.
Right, yeah, always the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I love that weekend. That's a great weekend to go. It's totally worth it for me. Even coming from Maryland, I so love going, and I get to stop in Columbus to see Connie and hang out with my buddy Ernie. Yeah, it's great, and just meet so many people. So I really encourage you. And again, I just want to super thank you, Victor, and you're my favorite guest. Though but other guests are my favorite too.
We won't tell anybody, but thank you so much.
No, I super love you, and Connie and everyone. Thank you for coming, everybody. You can take a moment to type your thank yous or anything that you want to tell Victor about how great he is. I hope you all come to more in the Reiki Awakening Academy interview series. We are interviewing people every month. And they all have amazing, fantastic, wonderful things to bring you and tell you and teach you and share with you. I've handpicked people for the last few months that I just think have to come and talk to you about what they're doing, because I think they're wonderful. And if I think they're wonderful, then damn it, they are. So yeah, you're getting a lot of good feedback. I also encourage you, and I'll make sure that this page opens your browser straight to it through the magic of technology. We have an evaluation that's very brief and very nice, so that I can hear from you about how you enjoyed this and any suggestions you have for future classes or interview series or anything that you're interested in learning about. So let me make sure that that's set up to do that. At this point, I'm going to stop the recording also, so those of you who are watching this recording, you know what's about to happen. So thank you again for watching. Thank you again, Victor. And thank you, Connie. I'm now ending this recording, but I'll still be here. Okay.